Well, thank you, Mr. DeFazio, and thank you for calling this hearing. I just want to say from our side of the aisle, we're very committed to working with you, with the majority members and staff. This is a very serious issue and deserves the attention of this subcommittee and committee in Congress. And we're committed to dedicate whatever resources or efforts of cooperation. We had the opportunity to sit with the Secretary and the Administrator briefly yesterday and express some of those concerns and hear both their intent. Now, we did not get the language, I understand, until about 10 o'clock last night, and we know that that was a work in progress, and we look forward to being contributors to crafting legislation that will, in fact, do the job. I did express some concerns yesterday in the direction that we don't want to be heading, and we'll work again with everyone to try to see that we don't go somewhere where we do not need to go, that we do address specific problems that we've seen. Having the federal government take a more significant role in transit safety is a laudable goal. And I remember after the crash here in Metro that got everyone's attention, and sometimes, fortunately, it's a disaster that does get our attention, that we may need to look at, again, the federal standards that are set and enhance some of those standards and see, of course, that we have oversight and that we also have compliance and that we thirdly have enforcement. I think we believe that all those things are important. One of the things that does concern us is that you have to look at the record of where we have been and what we have done as the federal government. We have two primary roles, as you know. In the past, the federal government has had oversight, some enforcement responsibilities, and has had a regulatory regime both in the freight rail business with FRA, the Federal Railroad Administration, and also over our nation's primary passenger intercity and long-distance carrier, Amtrak. So we have a record of activity of the federal government, and what I'd like to submit for the record too is again taking this very seriously. We have produced a report, and we'll distribute copies of the report. Got this little report here that everyone will see. And we've gone through and we've looked at the fatalities by rail transit, commuter rail, and also by Amtrak. It's interesting to note that the two areas that do have a current federal regulatory oversight and enforcement and active regulatory authority, two of those, commuter rail and Amtrak, if we look at the fatalities by the modes of transit, have had the highest number of fatalities. If you look at public transit, which again has very limited federal participation, you see that in fact that is the safest mode if you judge it by, again, by the measure of fatalities. You see about one fatality for, 65 million passengers. With transit, you see a much higher rate, one for 5 million passengers in commuter rail. And then Amtrak, which has, again, probably the highest level of federal oversight, one death in about every 250,000 passengers. We also analyzed, in addition to the fatalities, we looked at by the different modes, highway, railroad, air, and transit. And that's part of the report, and we think that also has some important information. If you could put that slide up there, people can get a look at, again, the fatalities by mode. We also see transit as one of the safest areas, and we want to keep it that way. But we believe that we should concentrate first on some of the areas where we have had the highest number of fatalities, and those are two of the areas in which the federal government has already had an extensive role. And whatever we craft for transit, we think should be geared to dealing with the fatalities and experiences that we've had. Just to have additional inspectors or having people, say, as they say in the industry, walk the track and build additional bureaucracies, we think that would be the wrong way to go. What we found, if you look at the crashes and Washington Metro, was a very serious number of fatalities, not one acceptable. You find that that kind of inspection or enforcement or regulatory requirement, additional regulatory requirement is possibly proposed right now by the administration may not and would not be that effective. What we need are people with the very best qualifications possible, people with technical skills that can not only deal with software but sophisticated and different types of technology used on these different public transit systems available. The second thing that we need is that we need to assist them with financing. When we had the Metro rail crash, I asked FTA and the administration to loosen up the requirements. Currently, funds are prohibited by, that are granted from the federal government for going for safety activities to these entities, and I ask that we consider some flexibility in that requirement. What you find if you look at these systems that, again, need improvements in safety, they not only need highly qualified personnel, but they need cash and they need assistance to put in the proper safety measures, and finally the technology that would eliminate some of those crashes and fatalities that we have seen. So in conclusion, I want to thank you again for bringing this meeting together. We have always worked on a cooperative bipartisan basis, and we intend to do so. We want to do that based on facts, the facts and findings of a rather comprehensive report which we've issued this morning, which I'd ask Mr. Chairman that be made part of the record today. And to thank you so much for the opportunity to present our side and our priorities in this important matter.
Without